When Barcelona announced the €55 million signing of Ferran Torres, it raised more than a few eyebrows. How was a club which had been forced to let go of its greatest ever player just 5 months ago due to financial constraints and had to rely on free transfers to bring in any new players last summer, able to pull off a deal like this? Following the player's unveiling, club president Joan Laporta even went as far to announce the club's return as a powerhouse in the world of transfers, saying, "Everybody in the world should get ready as we are back as big players in the market. The resurgence of FC Barcelona is a reality." But with Torres now a fully registered member of the Blaugrana squad, and with the club still sorting out the financial mess left to them by the previous administration, how on earth was a deal like this possible? And will the club be able to pull off similar business in the future? On today's EFD Explained, we're going to find out. In order to look at why Barcelona have been able to pull off a deal like the one they've made for Ferran Torres, it's worth recapping their financial situation, even if it feels like very well trodden ground by this point. In 2020-21, the Blaugrana recorded a post-tax loss of €481 million, by far the worst in Europe. Inter Milan were next on almost half that at €246 million, while Real Madrid even posted a small profit. According to Swiss Ramble, one of the leading voices online for football finance, it represents the biggest annual loss ever recorded by a football club. This was largely the result of the club generating just €631 million in revenue, their lowest return since 2014-15, and around a quarter less than what they'd predicted to bring in at the start of the financial year. The global pandemic of course played a big part in this, with revenue linked to the stadium, mainly gate receipts, down by 84% on the previous year. However, according to the club, without the impact of COVID, they still would have recorded a loss of €390 million, which is still down almost €300 million on the year before. This is quite astonishing for a club which had posted a profit every year from 2011-12 to 2018-19 and were expecting to break the €1 billion mark for revenue in 2019-20. But having spent €960 million on transfers in the 3 years up to 2020, Barca landed themselves with €731 million worth of short-term debt that had to be paid off within 12 months. With the club's presidential elections taking place in March 2021, just months after the full extent of Barca's financial woes had become public, sorting out the mess left by the regime of Josep Bartomeu was always going to be first on the agenda for whoever came in. Returning President Joan Laporta was faced with debts totaling €1.35 billion, which had built up over the previous few years owing to several factors. Between 16-17 and 2021, the club's wage bill increased by a staggering 61%, mainly due to hefty pay packets handed out to big signings like Ousmane Dembele and Antoine Griezmann, and lucrative contract renewals for the likes of Samuel Umtiti, Sergio Busquets, and of course Lionel Messi, who signed an extension in 2017 worth €555 million. An investigation by Deloitte found that had Barca kept hold of the same squad for the 21-22 campaign, its payroll would now amount to €835 million, over 100% of its yearly revenue. There was also found to be a 56% increase in administrative costs between 16-17 and 19-20 due to, quote, a lack of governance and management, while it was revealed that the club would have to pay off €470 million, accounting for 35% of their total debt between March 2021 and June 2022. Considering all this, it seems incomprehensible that Barca would be able to make a big money signing like Ferran Torres. But over the last 10 months, the Laporta administration has made several moves to keep the club at least somewhat competitive in the transfer market, the most significant of which was restructuring their debt. In securing a €595 million loan from American investment bank Goldman Sachs, which will reportedly be paid off across the course of 15 years, the Blaugrana have effectively replaced the precariously large short-term debt which threatened the club's ability to operate. Club members have also voted to get the financing of the FC Barcelona project, which includes the renovation of the Camp Nou, back on track. Work is set to start this year, with plans for the new 105,000 capacity stadium to be open by the end of 2025. This will reportedly require an additional loan worth €1.5 billion, but with Laporta claiming the new complex will generate the club an extra €200 million per year from increased ticket sales, VIP boxes and selling the naming rights among other things, the hope is that the project will eventually pay for itself. At a time when Barca's women's team are selling 85,000 tickets for their upcoming Champions League tie with Real Madrid, these plans should bode well for the future. The club also announced a new 5-year strategic plan to increase revenue, bring the wage structure on both the sporting and administrative sides of the club under control, and stabilise the club's finances. And the newfound focus on blooding more La Masia graduates into the first team will also serve the club's cost-cutting mission, with 12 players from the Barca Academy currently in the senior squad. But while these plans give hope to fans who have been left uncertain of Barca's long-term prospects over the last 18 months, it doesn't necessarily explain why they've been able to complete a €55 million transfer midway through the season. As pointed out by Swiss Ramble, the club are reportedly paying the transfer fee over the course of 4 years, so assuming they are structuring the deal equally, they will only be paying Man City €13.75 million this year, something which is seemingly covered by the Goldman Sachs loan and restructuring of debts. But while purchasing the player clearly wasn't too big a problem, the main obstacle facing Barca is La Liga's strict financial fair play regulations, which have squeezed the club during their period of economic difficulty in the wake of the global pandemic. The spending rules, which were brought in almost a decade ago to keep sides in the top 2 tiers of Spanish football in better financial shape, give every club a specific wage cap each season, known as the squad cost limit, depending on how much money the club is making. And due to the huge losses incurred by Barca over the last 2 years, while they had a cap of €671 million in 2019-20, this has dropped to just €98 million this season, below clubs like Villarreal and Real Sociedad. Barca's last reported wage bill from 2020-21 totaled €432 million, and according to the club, they reduced this by around €155 million last summer, which can be put down to the departure of Lionel Messi, the loans of Antoine Griezmann and Miralem Pjanic, and salary reductions agreed across the squad. So we can assume the club's wage bill at the beginning of this season would have been around €277 million, which of course still far exceeds the wage cap imposed by La Liga. And if this happens, the club in question is only permitted to spend 25% of whatever they save on reducing wages or selling players on new transfers. And if these rules are not met, then new players cannot be registered. So the club have clearly had their work cut out for them in trying to get a new, highly valuable player onto the pitch, and it's testament to just how much they wanted Ferran Torres that they've been able to make it happen. As sporting director Matteo Alemany recently said, "When we signed Ferran, we knew that we didn't have any margin with the salary limit. We made an exception with him because it was worth it." And thankfully for Torres, they've been able to make it work. Sergio Aguero's retirement, whilst unfortunate, has meant the club has been able to save on his reported €6 million salary, while the decision to stop playing Rapid Vienna loanee Yusuf Demir meant they didn't trigger the €10 million obligation to buy in his contract. The move which ultimately made his registration possible though involved Samuel Umtiti, whose refusal to budge on his wages or terminate his contract had previously marked him out as an anomaly among the squad and a thorn in the side of the club. The week following the announcement of Torres' arrival, Barca confirmed that they had negotiated a new agreement with the French defender, extending his contract until 2026 and reducing the part of his salary that would have been paid in the 18 months that was due to run on his previous deal. These savings meant that Torres was able to be registered with La Liga. But making similar signings in the future will be far from simple. There are still a number of players on the fringes of the squad who the club have failed to sell, while they will inevitably need to stump up more competitive wages for their teenage stars to avoid the risk of losing them to more financially powerful rivals over the next 2 years. And should they fail to qualify for the Champions League, something that hasn't happened since 2003, then their revenue, and by extension their wage cap, will take another significant hit. Laporta and co will hope that the loan of Felipe Coutinho, who was reportedly the club's highest earner before his switch to Aston Villa, will be a big enough success for the English club to exercise their €33 million option to buy on the Brazilian. Should this happen, then Barca may be able to reinvest 50% rather than 25% of the money they make on him, owing to a loophole in La Liga regulations regarding top-earning players. Given the ability of the Laporta administration to make transfers happen since last summer, it's clear that they are still capable of making moves in the market. But as long as they are limited by spending controls, there is only so much they can do. At a time when arch rivals Real Madrid look set to sign Kylian Mbappe and the rest of Europe's elite go in for Erling Haaland, it is yet another indication that the Blaugrana have fallen some way behind their competitors on the continent. So that was our explainer on why Barcelona can still afford transfers, but can you see Ferran Torres being a success at the Camp Nou, and who should they sign next? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to Euro Football Daily if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.